Dr. Jason Schumard with Integrative Wellness Center of San Diego, and also the author of The Thyroid Epidemic. In today's presentation, or today's talk, I really wanted to discuss the difference between hypo and hyperthyroidism. This is a common thing that we get in the office, and it's almost as if most people believe they're completely separate different things. In a sense, they have some separate symptoms in the way they're diagnosed, but in reality, for most people, the mechanism that is causing the hypo or hyperthyroidism is essentially the same. So the first thing I want to do is I want to define the difference between each one symptomatically and some of the things that someone could be dealing with and how they're diagnosed. Well, number one was hypo. Obviously, that means low, so that's a low thyroid condition, whereas hyper, excitatory, is a high thyroid condition. So how are we going to distinguish between the two? And mainly the way we distinguish is on a blood test. Now, when you're looking at a marker called, well, let's use this in red. I think it'll be easier to be in red. So if we're looking at a blood test, we have TSH, all right? Now, if TSH is elevated, that is going to be hypo. So just from looking at your blood test alone, you can look at your TSH, and if the markers are higher than where they should be, then you know you have a diagnosis of a hypothyroid condition, meaning your condition is a low thyroid. So what sort of things are we going to see? We're going to see things that are deficient. So we're going to see things like increased weight gain, fatigue, hair loss, brain fog, sort of those sort of things, right? Depression could be another one, depression. These are going to be some of the common symptoms that we're going to see in regards to someone developing a hypo or a low thyroid condition. Now, if we have the opposite and we've got a low TSH, decreased TSH, that's going to be equivalent of a, obviously, hyper. So hyperthyroid is going to be an overreactive thyroid that's producing too much of the hormone, and the person's going to have certain symptoms. So what do we see? We see things like heart palpitations. We can see anxiety, right? Increased blood pressure can be a problem with that type of thing. We can see GI issues that are going on as well. We can see extreme weight loss, like extreme weight. The person can't keep on weight and they look very frail and thin because the body's in a hyperreactive state. Now, in regards to danger, the hyperthyroid is a much more dangerous situation, right? You can see because we're creating a lot of hyperreactivity that's going on. The person has an increased risk of things like heart attack, stroke, which can be life-threatening. Whereas the hypo is going to create a lot of long-term dysfunction, and the person's just not going to feel good. They're going to have less motivation, less drive, and they don't want to go do anything. It's going to affect their social life, their ability to work, all these things. They're both problematic. And they can both create a lot of overall dysfunction throughout somebody's life. But the reality is, as I mentioned before, that for many individuals, when they get diagnosed with these types of things, they're just given medications, right? They're going to take medications to adjust things on the blood test to stabilize the TSH and say, everything looks good. So the medications, there'll be specific medications for a low thyroid and specific medications for a hyper. Now, in some scenarios, when someone has a hyperthyroid, oftentimes they may recommend radiating the thyroid, essentially killing and destroying the thyroid so it no longer can produce specific hormones, thyroid hormones, and that moves the person into a hypo state. Now they require the hypo medications for the rest of their life because they have a non-functioning thyroid. What's important, though, is, as I said before, many people believe they're completely different. Well, in regards to symptoms and analysis, they're completely different, but the mechanism for most people that's causing both of these, because no one has discussed what the cause is. And for the cause, it can be multifactorial, but for most people, when they're dealing with cause, their problem they're experiencing is an autoimmune disease. So what I mean by autoimmune disease is that the immune system is actually attacking and destroying the thyroid. Now, when that happens, depending on the area of the thyroid that's being attacked, it can cause a hypothyroid situation, which is called Hashimoto's, or it can be hyper, which is called Graves' disease. So both of these are autoimmune conditions. So both of them are created from the immune system. Now, if you're not familiar with what autoimmune is, essentially, as I mentioned, it's the immune system attacking and destroying the tissue. It's obviously not supposed to do that. But other autoimmune conditions you may be familiar with would be rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, celiac disease, lupus, MS, things of that nature. Well, this is no different except for the tissue that's being destroyed. In this specific case, it's the thyroid. But the cause is still the immune system. The immune system has basically been triggered to start attacking and destroying the thyroid. The unfortunate thing is, for most people, when they're diagnosed with this, the treatment is essentially the thyroid. They're given a medication for the hypothyroid, they're given a medication for the hyper, or they're giving radiation to destroy the thyroid, to move them into a hypo based upon the Graves scenario here. Now, it doesn't really fix the problem because if we think about this, we take a step backwards, the reality of the problem here is the immune system. The immune system is what's sick and being triggered and attacking the thyroid and destroying the thyroid, creating these are just symptoms or a diagnosis that we can use for ICD-10 or for insurance purposes. But until we figure out what is triggering the immune system, that's where you make the difference. That's where you can start to arrest these conditions, potentially stop the attacks on the body so the person can start to feel better and function better and live a quality of life. So we have to really understand how to address these things, and the only way you know how to address them is if you comprehensively test. You analyze the person very specifically, not only to understand if the immune system is the issue, and by the way, this is a very easy test to analyze to see if this is the underlying issue. But just by finding out that the autoimmune is the problem doesn't give you the ability now to say, oh, this is what needs to be done. There are a multitude of other things that have to be evaluated to see what the cause and problems are going on at the surface. So hopefully this kind of gives you a better idea and understanding the difference between hypo versus hyper. So again, they have different symptoms and different ways of diagnosing, but the underlying mechanism in most cases is the same. Again, it's the autoimmune. And just so you guys know, so you're aware, about 90 to 95% of all cases of hypo and all cases of hyper is due to the autoimmune. So it's a big component, and unfortunately, if you haven't been evaluated, if you haven't been tested, this is a huge problem that could be reducing your ability to heal and to live that quality life that you want to live. So hopefully today was worth your time and your energy. Hopefully you got some value out of this and this helped you get a little bit more educated in regards to thyroid conditions. And if it did, please comment below to let me know that it was something that was educational and helpful for you. Maybe there's something that you have going on that you want me to talk about. You can comment below and I'll put together a video for you as well. And of course, if you don't mind liking our page and sharing this content, this can be really helpful. Somebody in your circle of influence could definitely use this information, I guarantee it. If you want to find out more about our videos, you can always go to our YouTube page, which is you can either go to Integrative Wellness Center of San Diego, that's our office, or you can search for me, Jason Shumar, DC, to get a lot more content, patient testimonials, those sort of things. You can learn more about our office. And if there's anything that I can do for you, listen, if you're at a point now where you're looking to get help and you want to not wait any longer and try to find the right practitioner, you can always reach out to us. We can get you set up for a virtual conversation, a consult with me, so I can evaluate your case to see how you can benefit from the thousands of other patients who have benefited in our office over the years of working with them. I'll post our information below in the comments. you can reach out to us directly, and one of our staff can get you set up for that virtual consultation. So I look forward to meeting you if you decide to schedule something with us. And if not, please comment. I'd love to get more information about how I can help you and provide the best information and content that's going to help you live the quality of life that you want. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you in the next